presentation. I'm hoping to just share a couple of things with you all. If you have questions, please make this interactive so that you don't have to listen to me. People tend not to like to listen to me. So just ask your questions and hopefully we'll make this as painless as the vaccine is. So this is a presentation that we've put together for our clients at HRCG, and I'm sure James has shared with you that HRCG is an end-to-end human resource and outsourced payroll provider. I just wanted to share a couple of quick facts for those of you that have employees. You all know through the CARES Act last year that there was an emergency sick and emergency family medical leave program that was extended on a voluntary basis through March 31st. So employers don't have to do it if they choose not to, but you can do it if you want to. Just know that you can't give people more time. So if someone's extended all of their 80 hours under emergency sick, or they've used the 12 weeks under emergency FMLA, they don't get more time, but you can choose to do that as an employer if you choose to. So also know that unemployment was extended through the December 21st. President truly where all of this information came from, the extension of the CARES Act. So another $300 per week for employees, as well as the ERTC credit. James can certainly share more with you about that, but that's a great way for businesses that have been impacted by the pandemic to get some tax relief. And then there's also been a relief around FSAs, flex spending accounts, and dependent spending accounts. Those have been able to be rolled over for the first time ever. So from 2020 into 2021, 2021 into 2022. So again, if you have any of those plans, or if you are employers and have any of those plans, know that those are all opportunities for you. So let's jump into the vaccine. So we have already passed phase 1 of the vaccine rollout. These rollouts have been created in combination with the CDC and Governor Lamont. Every state has something that sort of looks the same, though they have discretion to use this plan as it's been created, but they can change things around. Connecticut, believe it or not, because we are in many states, Connecticut is probably one of the most progressed in terms of where we are. Just as an example, Massachusetts is nowhere near as far ahead as we are. New Hampshire's in a good place. Vermont's not as near ahead as where we are in the state of Connecticut. So be proud, we're in a good place. So 75 and older are already getting vaccinated. Our essential healthcare workers who are in phase 1A are already vaccinated. If they chose to be, they are already there. Our essential frontline workers, this is mostly manufacturers or healthcare workers that were not included in the 1A grouping. Those folks are already being tagged and called on right now. Their employer coordinators are getting notified and getting their lists together to get these people in to get their vaccinations. And people, we're seeing the one thing that we did slip ahead with is we took the group from 65 and over and we moved them ahead of this comorbidity group. So the comorbidity group, that's people with one or more. So two really kinds of affective health, underlying health conditions. So it could be asthma and a heart issue, or an autoimmune disease and a blood disorder. So those people now have sort of been stacked below the 65 and older, but expect to see those people on the list within a week or two. I mean, we're really moving ahead now with the process. So 65 to 74-year-olds, that's supposed to be released tomorrow. I can tell you that most people in local towns were enrolling Monday night, Tuesday night. Walgreens is open, Walmart, CVS. There are a lot of them are bookings. You just have to be tenacious and keep going back. But I think you're going to see most of the folks that you know in those age groups will be set up and successful by the end of next week. Then I think you're going to see the comorbidities go right after that. And then you're going to see all of the folks that are in the 1B essential workers that weren't called yet. That's your manufacturing organizations. That's the frontline workers, the retail stores, the food workers, postal workers. All of those people are going to start falling into line shortly thereafter. I actually feel really good about where we are in this state, and very glad that this is where I am, because know that you're in a much better place than many others. So I do think we'll hit the target of having people done by late spring, early summer, if not exceed it. That's my belief. So I'm not going to get into a lot of this, but again, I do think we're going to meet our goal of late spring, early summer. For those of you who are in organizations, this link is the most important thing, the VMAS link, the VAMS link. This is how you get enrolled both as an employer and now as an individual as well. You can only use it once you are eligible. So I've had companies complain that they can't get into the link and get themselves enrolled, and it's only because their group hasn't been called upon yet. So if you're a 1C group, quote unquote, you can't enroll now in the VAMS. Back in December, everybody was at least able to get their names in if they were in 1B or 1C, but they've stopped that. So now they're just taking people into that group if you're ready to be registered as an employer or as an individual. So don't freak out if you can't get through that process yet. Go ahead.
I have a question, Robin. Thank you for this information. So I live and work in Shelton remotely, but my corporate headquarters, I'm with a national company, Welcome Wagon, is in Florida. Yep. So how would I navigate this?
So for you, because you're working remote, you're probably not going to be designated as essential. That's first.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if you fall into the 75 and older category.
No, not even 60.
So then your next shot is, God forbid, you don't fall into the comorbidity shot. So you're going to be in that group that's going to be after the 1C group.
Okay.
Right? So you're going to be more in the general public. So you're going to probably be sometime in May, end of May. But Kara, what I will tell you is probably starting in April, when they really start getting through the 1Cs, you're going to see a lot more flexibility in doctors' offices. You're going to see more flexibility at Walgreens, at CVS, all of these places that have shots. Those shots that they're currently in the market with are only good for certain periods of time. And then they need to get rid of them before they're expiring. Wow. So anybody who is available, they're going to give you a shot. They're not knocking people out.
Right.
They're really not. Nobody wants to see somebody go without a shot that wants a shot.
Right.
So you don't want to lie to get in, but you definitely, if you want it, you'll get the shot.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question.
Sure.
I see that hairdressers are not on the list, or anybody in that field. I mean, they're just I'm only asking because my sister's a hairdresser. She's in close contact with people a lot more than these restaurant workers.
Well, again, you get back to essential workers, right? And it's how the CDC has defined what an essential function is. So
everybody needs a haircut.
Well, I might agree with you. Unfortunately, the CDC may not, right? So I understand.
When are they falling into the category?
I don't know, but I can certainly look it up and get it to James and have him get it back to you.
I'd appreciate that.
Sure. They are considered retail workers, and I believe that retail workers, I think, fall into 1C.
Yeah.
I'll check, but I think they fall into 1C. But I'll check.
Robin, I had a question. Are the educators all allowed to get shots now in Connecticut?
It's a great question. So I'll give you an opinion answer. So the answer is right now, no. For some reason, the educators are not identified in the group.
They're on your list, though, in the group.
So they're not on 1B.
No, No, go back. Yes, they
Right,
are.
right here,
Elderly
right?
education.
I agree.
Yeah.
They're right here, but they have not been put up yet.
That's unbelievable.
I agree. I agree. I do agree that it's probably right around the corner, but they have not been put up yet.
My daughter in Rhode Island was on the list, I guess, with educators. And then in Rhode Island, they said, oh, but now only educators that are over 40 years old. So
I don't know what's happened nationally with that group, but there's all of a sudden been a lot of yin and yang with that group versus every other group that's on this
it's
list.
so important.
It suddenly has gotten politicized, and I'm not sure why. Because if it were, and again, this is an opinion statement, but if it was up to me, they would have been in 1A.
Children don't even vote. I mean, why should it be political?
They're using the death numbers as to control most of these shots. That's basically which category, which age groups die more often from the.
But they should be worried about who's transmitting it. And
of course. But.
Robin, I have a question.
Sure.
What about the caregivers of the people in those groups of?
Good question. It's a really good question. So that is, Nancy, from what I've seen, has been dependent on the person providing the vaccine, which isn't the answer you want, but in most cases, the vaccine provider is giving it to one caregiver.
Thank you. I appreciate.
Yeah, I have in my experience in Connecticut, we've been flexible about that, which is great. But they're not giving it to, if you've got one 95-year-old dad who you're taking care of, they're not giving it to 6 siblings. So pick your caregiver well, right? Don't pick the 3 over 60 or the 1 over 65. Pick the one that's 55, right? That's not going to get it until May.
Thank you.
So Robin, I have a quick question. I have a client who's 67. I mean, she's retired. She was able to actually get the first shot. Where did she fall? I'm curious. I wasn't able to look back at yours.
She's 67. She's going to get it right now. She can sign up right now. She should get
No,
on.
she signed up and she already got the first shot.
Oh, good.
So that was okay. So 67. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
67 just got opened Monday.
Gotcha.
They
I think she had it before that though. I think when she did it, I actually think there's probably maybe a little bit of a hole or whatever, or a gap in her system, because she was able to sign up and not get any sort of questions answered, or what. She was able to somehow get it scheduled.
So I'm going to say this. I think that there is a hole. I think that if people are not truthful completing, and they get there, they're getting the shot.
Okay.
Let me see, if she was 37, they might have said, go home.
Mhm.
But I think they're probably not going to turn away a 67-year-old person.
Okay. Cool.
But I bet if it were 37, they probably would have.
Thanks.
But we've heard of those situations too. So I want to spend just a couple of minutes, because I know that you guys have a certain time frame. I just want to do a tiny bit of education, because I did this for myself in preparing this for another group. And I learned a lot. And my daughter is actually, she works for Dartmouth, and she's gratefully, because she does have comorbidities, she's already been vaccinated both times. So I'm thrilled. But she educated me because she has an autoimmune disorder, and there's only certain kinds of shots that she could take. So I did a lot of education for myself, and I do believe that we should be educated before we take any kinds of vaccines so that we know what we're taking. And there is a major difference between the vaccines. So the two that are most out there right now are the Pfizer and the Moderna, right? So those are the two, and you don't get to pick. Whatever is there that day is what you're getting. So the Pfizer and the Moderna are both considered mRNA vaccines. And what that means is they are not live viruses at all. There is a protein in the vaccine that goes into your cell. It doesn't go into your DNA, but it goes into the cell and basically reproduces what looks like the coronavirus. And it teaches the cell to react to that, whatever that pattern is, so that it learns to fight back and create an autoimmune to that exact replication of what it creates, so that the body can learn how to fight off that cell. But the most important thing to know is you are not putting coronavirus in your system. You're not putting any live virus in your system at all. It's truly just to create a pattern that replicates what COVID looks like within your system. The Pfizer vaccine, there's 2 doses, they're 21 days apart. The Moderna is 2 doses, it's 28 days apart. They both have an efficacy rating of 95%.
Question.
Sure.
What happens now? My mom had her shot. It's good, her first one already. She's going over the 28 days. What happens with that?
It's a minimum of 28 days. It's not a maximum,
Oh,
right? It's not a max. So it's okay if she goes 2 months. There is a window, right? If she's going over 8 weeks, I would have her keep calling to get that rescheduled, right? If they have her out 3 months or 4 months, Teresa, I would have her keep calling.
Yeah, no, they're doing her on the 26th of the month.
Which is how far out from her first shot?
I'm just looking for my sister's email.
Probably like 6 weeks or something. They just,
it's actually just exactly 30 days.
yeah, so you're good. You're way good.
Okay.
You're way good. But if they had set, let's say, for example, they set her up for 3 months from now, what they're going to tell you, you call them, they'll tell you to cancel that appointment and they'll reschedule another one for you.
Okay, like she's going for the Moderna. I hear a lot of people are getting sick with that.
So the Moderna has some additional side effects, but truly, it really is up to each individual's body on how they're going to react. And again, my daughter's got immuno issues. She had 0 side effects, none, not one.
From the Moderna?
From the Pfizer. She had nothing.
Oh, from Pfizer, but I hear Moderna's the one that
everybody is different. Everyone is different. Everyone is different.
I'm just really freaking out over it because she's 83 years old.
I get it. But you know what? It's a whole lot better than the alternative. She will be fine. It's probably going to be 2 days of discomfort. That's going to be worth the rest of her life.
Okay.
No one, look, the overall perspective of people dying from the shot is de minimis. It's nothing. So
Okay.
yes, she might get sick for a couple days, but it's much better to watch her be sick for a couple days than the other side of this.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to point out is the other 2 vaccines that you are going to see, which is AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, which are also very powerful, especially the Johnson & Johnson, which is really coming up from behind right now. The AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson do have live virus in them, not live COVID virus, but they have a live virus in them. And that live virus strain acts the same way. It creates this antigen that responds and creates this antibody within our systems that fights anything that looks like it that tries to enter our system afterwards. The very cool thing about the Johnson & Johnson, which is a one and done dose, is that it can be very easily changed to be modified against these new mutations on the fly almost. So as these new things are coming, they can make a change in their dose within a week to be effective against that. So while the overall efficacy ratings may not look as good as Pfizer or Moderna, they're really good because they can stop in the tracks these new changing waves that we're getting of other things. So, and the AstraZeneca also 70% efficacy is not bad either. So again, I think you're going to see those out in the marketplace more. They're being produced in mass production right now. There is another type of virus vaccine that's coming out. It's actually very popular right now. It's only what they're using in Russia. It's called subunit. That is truly with the COVID virus in it. And the reason I'm drawing the distinctions is if, for example, Teresa's mom had an autoimmune disorder, she would not be able to take any kind of a live virus, not just COVID, but any kind. So know what you're taking before you take it. Now this was as of last week, but now we're up to somewhere around the high threes for first doses. So we're almost at 400,000 first doses. That's huge. It's really huge. And this was as of Sunday. I just wanted to show you where we stack overall in the world. And this is per 100. So when I showed this last week, people were like, oh, of course, those are smaller countries. But no, this is all per 100. So we are actually in the 5th place for getting people vaccinated in the world, which shocked me. Israel is far above us. The United Arab Emirates is far above us. The UK, Serbia, all far above us in terms of vaccines. So I'll keep updating this. I found it very interesting where we stood from a world standpoint, because we always like to think of ourselves as world leaders. And in this case, we were nowhere near the top. So the only other question, I don't know if any of you are interested, but we're close to 9 o'clock, but I do have many thoughts about mandating in the workplace. If any of you are interested, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you offline. There are some limitations. Most employers can mandate in the workplace. There are some restrictions to it from an EEO perspective and an ADA perspective. And you just want to be careful that you're not stepping on those two issues. But sans that, you can mandate it. The question is, do you really want to, right? It's a big lift to mandate. So we're seeing most employers go around trying to encourage it, and you encourage it by educating people to death on it. Educate, 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 and hopefully people make the right decisions. Any other questions I can answer for you all?
I have one more question.
Sure.
Okay, so let's say my mom does get sick after that, okay?